she was just slow and didn't want
She
to ask
didn't-
for help?
yeah,
Had an
yes.
ego or
all of that.
Yeah,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm a perfectionist. That was what she just kept saying. She just didn't know how to start, how to formulate, where to go, how to move through things. And yes, ego was big.
Welcome back to the Hello Hair Pro podcast. Today we're talking about, we have a few different things to talk about. Complacency, mindset, dealing with perfectionism.
All good things.
We'll just jump in. Right? All good things, I guess. You know how to deal with them. They could be good things.
All good things to talk about so you can deal with them.
Exactly. So before we kick things off, this episode is brought to you by our friends at PingPong Design and Marketing. If you want to love your website again, or if you just need a new website, you're looking for more clients to fill your chair, PingPong wants to make the internet a better place. They provide websites, marketing campaigns that inform and convert, which is important, measurable results, which is something we're a fan of. And PingPong is offering our audience a special discount on any website or marketing campaign. So visit the show notes to reach out to Chris and talk more about your needs.
You won't regret it.
You will not. So PingPong is not just for hair pros, but for the entire health, beauty, and fitness industries. Check them out. All right, let's dive in. So we have complacency. We'll start there. So what causes complacency?
Hey, you didn't introduce us.
Oh, I didn't. That's right. Introduce us.
Oh, this is scary. So, hi, I'm Jen. I'm one of the co-owners of Hello Hair Co. And I'm here with my co-owner and husband and barber, Todd.
Hi.
How'd I do?
You did great.
Okay.
I had to shut the teapot off.
I heard.
So these mics pick up everything. So
Life happens.
yeah, you did great. I'll listen back, but I'm sure you did fine.
Okay. I was a little nervous.
Did you say your name?
I did.
Say my name?
Yep.
Say the show name?
Hello Hair Pro Podcast.
There you go. You got it. All right. So we're talking about some mindset stuff. We've actually had a few people reach out and sort of ask us for that topic.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with complacency. I think it's something that is super common, not just in our industry, in any industry.
Correct.
And there are ways around it. So let's first dive into like what causes complacency.
I think being comfortable in your
big one.
day-to-day and the idea of that changing is scary.
For sure. So I think complacency, there's a whole bunch of stuff that causes it. I think when you're in a repetitive task over and over, day in, day out, like you said, and nothing goes wrong.
Right.
Like you just start to coast. And that's a really comfortable place to sort of hang out and be.
Yeah, and
dangerous
I think now
for
that
too
we
long.
just said it, some of you listening might be like, oh, that's me. And you're like, I am doing that. And what should I do to like kind of switch it up a little? But I don't even know if it's always recognizable because you're just like, oh, my life is great. Everything's great. Like everything's just right here.
I think distraction is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you sort of, if you become distracted in other areas of your life, it gets real easy to get on a coast.
Absolutely.
With other things. So maybe it's, maybe we flip it. Maybe work is chaotic. So you are complacent at home or in your relationship. And you're just like, I don't have to work on this. This will be fine.
Yeah.
And that's probably not fine.
Right.
It's probably not cool if you ask your partner.
Right. Whenever you're putting something back burner that needs to all be balanced in the front, like it's never going to be good because something that's ignored is going to go downhill quickly before you probably even realize it.
Another thing I had in my notes was a poor or limited knowledge. And then to pair with that, acceptance of that.
I like that.
So when you aren't really sure what to do or what you should be working on, it's real easy to just hope things get better or hope things progress.
Agree. Somebody, the end of last year said something really cool to me. And I was one of those people like, I'll just put it in the universe and it will just happen, which is to me like what you're saying, right? Make it relatable. And
I'm not saying don't put stuff in the universe.
So she said to me, though, this was the part that I was missing. But what actions are you doing to make what you're putting in the universe start to come to life? And I'm like, shit, I actually need like some actionable steps, or I need some stuff like, how am I going to get there? I was like, universe has got me, like I'm all set. And no, not without me doing the work. Like,
I checked my horoscope.
Yeah, right.
I'm all set. Money's coming my way. I liked that post.
That's that complacency though mindset I was in. I was overwhelmed in different things. It was like, I'll just throw it in the universe. That's going to be okay. Not thinking like, okay, but what am I going to do to like start the universe to like show it to me or something? Like I forgot about the do part, the action part. And it was like, my mind was blown and it was like so simple, but I'm like, shit, I got to start some actionable steps here to make this stuff come together.
For sure. Another thing I had here in my notes was the inability to speak. No, I'm just kidding. The inability to focus. So I think that goes back to the repetition point. If you don't create, and we can talk about different things to overcome these things, but if you don't create an environment where you can focus and get some work done,
Look, a squirrel, a butterfly.
Or say you're with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. I don't give a shit. But say you're with somebody and your mind is off somewhere else. Like that's not fair either. Yeah. So you've got to create scenarios or times where you can
be organized in your thoughts and organized in what you need to get done.
And focused on what's going on. So let's dive into how to overcome complacency.
Yeah, like what do you do?
There are a ton of different things that we could do. Mm-hmm. You want to start? You want me to start?
So for me, that realization of...
I guess she's starting.
I'm starting.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm just doing it. The realization of the actionable steps. That was first for me. And then taking control for me of all aspects of my life. My home life versus my work life versus whatever else I want going on. And what do I need to do in all of those to get a balance? Some things were easy, some things were more difficult. I tend to shy away when things are more difficult. So some of those became at the end of my list and have now been tackled, which is great. And I just organize it in my mini wins first.
Interesting. So say that like middle to last part again. Do you remember what you were saying? You're just talking, aren't you?
No, it's organized in my head. I just said I focused on the actionable steps, and then to balance my life was, where do I go there? And
how did you get to a point where you were taking action? Because I know for a lot of people listening,
it took someone telling me to.
Okay.
Someone saying, like, you can't just throw it in the universe and just expect that.
Because I think a lot of people will find value in that. That's why I wanted to back up to it. So
I want to win the lottery, but if I don't play the lottery, I'm not winning it. So like...
Yeah, cool example, I guess.
It works. I did it with my client yesterday, actually. Talked about the lottery.
Yeah.
But it was someone saying, like, but what are you doing to make those things happen? I remember it was a client of mine.
Right. So if somebody said that to you, what would you say? Just take action? But how? They don't know.
So for me, obviously, I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. What we do when we coach people is sort of listen to what they're saying, and then we help them like prioritize. Mm-hmm. What do you want to see done first? What would make you happy if you could check these boxes off? And then we hold them accountable. Like, okay, you have homework, and I want to see you reach out to this one, do this, and I want to see you do this, and then let's plan on what's next. And that also helps, like you were saying, like, to organize your thoughts and to focus, because it's hard when you are like, I want to do all these things. And then a lot of times what happens is you freeze because there's so many things you don't know where to start. So you don't do any of them.
Right.
So for us, when we coach people, we just on our coaching call the other day was like, all right, we had an agenda for I don't even know a person we coach. And it went in a way of she had a list of all her stuff.
I call her a mentee because
I was stumped on that.
Mentor mentee. I mean, that's the relationship really.
So she went through her list and it sort of changed ours because it was clear that her focus on some of the stuff she wanted to get done was important to her. So we just gave her 3 things. Here's what you need to do. And
all based off of what she was telling us.
Yep. And we just
we didn't coach
her on that.
Right. So I think coaching is a little different. I think a coach would get like, I don't know, I think of in my head, and it's just semantics, but when I coached someone at my gym, I didn't give them options.
Right.
I gave them what was best.
They're hiring you though for that. Right. When we're coaching somebody.
With mentoring, I feel like it's different. I'm listening. There's a different relationship. And again, if you're a coach and you're like, that's not true. I'm not trying to argue it.
This is just what we do.
In my head, how it works for me.
Yeah.
Is it's more of a mentor role. Like sometimes I just listen. That's what the person needs.
Right. And That's what they probably don't have.
Right.
And we can't just throw up everything we want for them because we need to work with... We
didn't even get to our plan.
Yeah, with what they need and get them started and the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. And that's where I guess, what would be your first step? If you can't focus on all the things you want to get done, you probably need somebody to help you lay that out, whoever that is in your life, or you hire someone to mentor you, whatever that is. But a lot of times we get lost in that list being so big, and how do we get there, that we don't do any of it. And the next year comes, and the next year, and you're like, I'm not making any progress. And that's where you could just need some help.
True story. The big one I had for overcoming complacency was to take risks.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about calculated risks, not
fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, not like
Again,
that.
That's that focus. What am I going to take on first, for sure.
So a lot of times we get in this sort of rut or a complacent area in our life, and we feel really comfortable hanging out there because nothing really is going on bad, but also on the other side, nothing's really happening great. Mm-hmm. So we're just sort of stagnant, and that word might be aggressive, but
it's true.
It is true. So I think for people to realize to take a risk, maybe you took a risk lately or recently, which was to learn
a new skill.
And that's a risk to a lot of people because guess what?
Because it's in my head dreaming about it every night, how to get better at it.
Well, I was going to say, guess what? And
it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable because you suck at it in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm not good.
When
and I like to be good at stuff.
With anything, you fumble around, go back or don't and listen to our first podcast episodes. This is episode, what is it? 31, 30, 31?
Something like that.
So they've already improved. We went back and listened to a few of the early ones, and these are just, they're better. You get better at it.
For sure.
But we didn't not take the risk because...
Right. And you have to keep doing it and consistently practicing it and all of those things.
So that takes us perfect into my next point, which was when you're going to take a risk or you're going to learn something new, you have to put it into practice. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about this a whole lot because in the hair industry, it's so common for people to be like, I'm going to school, or I'm getting this cert, or I'm taking this class, or I'm working online with this blonding expert.
I was just going to say it's easier said than done, because once you start practicing and then you realize you suck at it, or you realize it's way harder than you anticipated, now you're at a crossroad. What do? Do you continue it so you get better, or do you quit?
So I was going to say, so what? You're doing those things. So what? What's next? Yeah. Because just accumulating the knowledge does nothing for you.
You have to practice it.
Wow, you learned something. Like I have books too.
Yeah.
Not being a jerk, but this is the harsh reality of it. You have to be willing to go to put it into practice.
Yes.
I think I've used, like the great painters and sculptors of back in the day. Can you imagine if they just worked with their master and
just watched them paint all day?
Them forever and never actually put it into practice?
Right. And that seems to be, that is what some people think.
They think I'll just accumulate this knowledge. People will give me money.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how the world works. You have to solve someone's problem, which is going to take you practicing something. Mm-hmm. Or putting something into practice. I think you also have to accept that growth is going to take time.
Yes. You have to have patience.
You have to have patience. It's going to take effort and a consistent effort. You have to apply pressure and keep that pressure there. You can't apply pressure on Monday and Tuesday sucks, so I'm going to back off.
Right.
And then Wednesday I'm feeling good, and you've got to go even when you don't feel good.
One step in front of the other every day.
Yeah, and I'm not saying don't take days off. I'm not saying don't have off days or bad days, because you can. In fact, I have this written here.
You will.
I don't even need notes anymore. I do. Notes make me so happy to have.
Focus, organized.
Yeah. It's really important to accept that it's okay to have a day, a week, a month. When you're talking in business, it could be a quarter, a year, whatever, that's off.
Yeah.
You can have a bad year.
Just keep
There are companies that have had bad years.
Yeah.
Bad quarters. Mm-hmm. A bad half. And they're still around doing better. Because they just kept that constant pressure, that constant applied practice.
It is not easy to grow in whatever you decide to do. And those that really go through all of those changes is where like the magic happens of that growth. A lot of people will hit a wall and it pushes them back, maybe even back further than where they started. And that's where you see truly people wanting to progress and be a better person, or that see a better self for them, because they can push through the things that are hard, difficult, and the resistance that they get while doing that.
True story. Anything else on complacency?
No, I think that's great. Actionable steps. If you are looking at those steps and you don't know where to start, you just need to phone a friend, whoever that is for you.
Get a mentor. Hit subscribe while we're thinking about it.
Yeah, like.
And we just recently started taking on some mentoring clients. So there is, I'll put it in the show notes, which I think we just started doing last week. Like we made it public.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. So if you're curious of what we're up to and what we offer, book a call and we can chat.
Yeah.
If you don't see a time on the calendar, because we're in the process of switching calendars. So if you don't see a time on there, just hit me up, find me, slide in those DMs, and I'll set you up with a time. But let's dive into perfectionism.
Okay.
I think this goes really well with complacency, because I think it holds people up, but for different reasons.
Do tell.
Okay, I will.
Where's your head
So
on
I have a few thoughts. When someone says to me they're a perfectionist, like, hey, I didn't do this yet because I'm a perfectionist, my mind goes in different directions. So the first one is that they're afraid.
Yes.
Super common. The next one is they're unsure. They're not really sure what to do.
You know what I got once?
What?
A girl that worked for me a long time ago. Took her 7 hours, 8 hours to do one color. And she's like, it just takes me forever because I'm a perfectionist. She was just lost.
Yeah. And
like deer in a headlights lost. So to the point where I'm like, I don't even know how to help you.
Lights.
However I said that. You know what I mean.
So she was just slow and didn't want to ask for help?
Yeah,
had an ego or?
All of that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Gotcha.
I'm a perfectionist. That was what she just kept saying. She just didn't know how to start, how to formulate, where to go, how to move through things. And yes, ego was big. Like,
my final point on what causes, or what I think when someone says that, is that and this is probably way rare, they're actually a perfectionist.
Yes, the 1%ers, like
really
small amount.
Really
like, you
small
are
amount.
actually a perfectionist.
From there,
and feel bad for you if that's you.
I do tend to think people use being a perfectionist, and if you're just listening and not watching, I'm doing air quotes, because I do think that sometimes, most of the time, it's bullshit. It's an excuse, and it's just easy for people to use as a crutch. Like, oh, I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't done this.
So I think it's, and you
3
might
months
have
later.
just said this.
Does my voice sound scratchy? I gotta have some of this tea because
No, I don't think so. The perfectionist
allergies.
for me is, yes, there might be someone that is, but in most cases, you're just so scared of being judged or what's going to come your way on opinions and all that, that you use the word perfectionist to hold you back so that you don't just put yourself out there. It is not easy to put yourself out there and do something difficult and hard or challenging and not be scared. And so then you say, oh, I'm a perfectionist, but really, sure, perfect it as much as you can, but at some point just start doing it and get out there.
Yeah, you have to. The big takeaway, I think, from this episode is going to be take action.
Yes, 100%.
Doesn't really matter what
doing
or
something
where.
is better than doing nothing. And then just keep thinking about it and thinking about it. That's the worst place to be.
Unless, all right, so let's ask the question first.
Okay.
How do we get around perfectionism, or thinking that we're a perfectionist? Or if we really are afraid or unsure, how do we get around that?
I would recommend, I'm interested to hear what you have to say, but I'm going to go first so I'm not playing off your words.
All right.
I would recommend that you lay out, again, we're back to this focus, a plan of whatever it is you're trying to do, and what are the top 3 things that would bring you the most joy out of that, and then start there. Get your win, and then from there, move through whatever it is you're working on to the scarier parts, but hopefully those small wins get you to where you're like, okay, I'm doing this. I got this. I can keep moving. And then hopefully the perfection part comes down, and over time, you will get better at it. Okay, go. What do you got?
So we talked a lot about just take action, like stop sitting there.
Yeah.
I think if you're really trying to get around an issue, we have to really sort of dive into what the issue is.
Yeah. Like, what's the holdup?
So
why are you
my
hitting the wall?
first thing for someone that is stuck would be to pause.
I like that.
And
I'm
that might
bad
sound,
at that. No, it's awesome.
it might sound a little counterintuitive. They're like, wait, Todd and Jen said just keep going or take some action. I think the pause, okay, and this is just isn't a pause for a beach day. Maybe you go to the beach to do
pause
this
is to
exercise, but
reevaluate.
there's a thought experiment.
Yeah.
I want you to ask yourself honestly what the real issue is. Is it that you're scared? Because where we go next is
Because you have to identify what's holding you up.
I don't know if
What's
somebody
the
was
hurdle
like,
in front
hey,
of you? Yeah.
can you help me with this? I've been stuck on it. I'm just, it's not perfect and I want it perfect before we roll it out. Well, what is the issue? What's the real problem?
I love that.
Do you have a fucking ego problem?
Yeah.
That we
Because
need to
everyone's is going to
address?
be different, right? So like for me, I'm saying take actionable steps, but you're right. If you don't know what's in the way of you taking those steps, you don't know how to take them. So that first part of pausing and then realizing what is your enemy or what's going on, then you can make the steps that will actually help you get where you want to be.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is take a step in the wrong direction intentionally.
And honestly,
when you could have
pausing is
avoided.
the hardest thing to do.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm going to use that one for myself.
So then from there, you pause and maybe you take a week where you say, you know what, I'm going to work through this week. I have some time on Wednesday and a little time on Friday afternoon. I'm going to take a walk by myself through the woods, or I'm going to take a drive and listen to some music, and just really think about, don't daydream too much if you're driving. Disclaimer. So really think about where this is coming from. This might be, maybe you have a spouse that you want to impress and you're afraid that they're not going to be impressed, so you don't take action. Maybe you have a parent that you're seeking approval from. This isn't therapy, but
these are all real situations.
maybe you have a team that you feel responsible for, and if you take a certain action, you're afraid that it might affect their income, or I don't know what it might be. It's going to be different, like you said, for everyone, but we've got to start there and then build a plan around that. Another one for me is to celebrate small wins, which you mentioned earlier. So you have to have big goals. Big goals are great. So my 5, 10, 20-year goals are awesome, but they're too big to look at and manage. Like, what do you do with that?
Right. And they seem so far away that it's like unobtainable.
Right. So how do I take a step towards that every day?
Right.
So we need to set small goals. Maybe it's monthly. If it's monthly, we can break it down to weekly. If it's weekly, we can break it down to daily. And then celebrate those small wins, because the big goals, like I said, they're cool, but those can also change over time as well. But you want to still progress.
And the small wins accumulate. So that's the really neat part too, is when you realize you've had a few, or you're a month or two in, you're hitting stuff, you're like, whoa, I'm just here now. Like I've just arrived, and I didn't even realize it because I've
created a new habit.
It's really cool. The accumulation of that, I think, is really like makes it fun when you look back on it.
I think for sure that take your big goal, and like I just said with the months and the weeks, just work it backwards. And if you need help, you can
and
Google
pivot when you
search
need
how to do that stuff, or work with somebody. Reach out to us if you need to. Shameless plugs all over this podcast.
Ping pong.
Don't forget to check out Chris and PingPong.
They really are amazing.
So without action, I think this, I don't know why I say I think it's the new for me. I have to break that. Without action, everything goes back to complacency. So I could take that drive. I could listen to the tunes. I could clear my head, and I could say, you know what? I've got an ego problem. If this doesn't work, I'm going to feel ashamed. I'm going to feel sad. I'm going to feel broken, whatever it might be. Okay, cool.
And once you've acknowledged that, huge. That's a breakthrough.
That is great. Yes, applaud that. But then what are you going to do about it? What the fuck are you doing?
And honestly,
take a step from there,
right?
Or don't
this
just
is where
stay
the
there,
risk
because
comes
or else you risk just becoming complacent. Like,
correct.
I figured out what I need to do. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you just go back about your business,
which is what the normal kind of cycle happens.
For sure. Where else are we going with this?
I think that's it. I don't know. I mean,
all right. This was a short episode, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
So what causes complacency? We ran through that and how to deal with it. And then perfectionism, which is just something I think people get caught up on. And we ran through some thoughts on how to work around that or through it. You might have to strong arm yourself through that one, especially if you do end up being, well, any of the things are hard, right? So if you have an ego, that shit is tough. If you are unsure, you're still going to be unsure, even when you take the risk, because you haven't done it yet.
Right.
And then if you're afraid, you're going to be real afraid making the actual step or taking action.
Yeah, I agreed.
Accepting that, that's okay.
I would challenge anyone listening to think of something that for a while, maybe they have been thinking about, and they're just still thinking about it. And then now you have to, I would take a pause and ask, why are you still thinking about it? It's obviously very important to you. How can you put that into play in real life? Like, what do you need to do? Because the action part of that, as uncomfortable as it may be or not, but if it is, the other side of it will be so amazing. Stop thinking about it and do something.
I would challenge people to, in closing, like, even if it doesn't work out, now.
Yeah. And honestly, trying is better than just doing nothing.
Trying is entrepreneurship.
And eventually those tries will equal wins.
That's what they should rewrite the dictionary. Yeah. Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Try. Because that's what you do. You try something. Did it work? Did it not work? Yeah. What are the metrics we're using to measure?
There are many of things that Todd and I have tried that we've individually fallen flat on our face. Together we have. Here's what's cool. You get back up. You figure out what didn't work. You figure out what did. And you start over. And if you have an ego and it hurt you, you move on. Good. Or you talk about it.
Good. Use it.
Yeah. And you grow and you pivot. And that's truly how you become a better person. And if that's your business, a more successful business. And a better, well-run one.
Being able to have that ability to pivot is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Because even if you take an action and maybe your plan didn't work out. Mm-hmm. But what if you realize through that action and through things not working out, it's really not the direction you wanted to head in any fucking way.
Yeah. And we can speak to this because we live it. We walk it often. It's not easy. There are days that are hard and there are days that are great. And we've learned to celebrate the wins, but full well knowing there's going to be a fall on your face day and enjoy the ones that are great. And then the ones that aren't, like, how are you going to regroup? That's where we learn I feel like we said in closing 10 minutes ago, but that's where we learn. It's like when you're a kid and you ride your bike, you're going to fall. Yeah. You're falling. Big part is get back up and keep going. Are you going to keep riding? Yeah. You're going to keep learning, just like anything. All right, let's wrap it up. Okay. That was good. Any other thoughts? No. Before I hit this music button? Hit like, subscribe. Reach out if you want to book a coaching call. We'd love to help if we can. Yeah, for sure. Reach out, hit subscribe, all that fun stuff. Leave a review somewhere. That helps too. Yeah. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you all. Bye. Bye.